Chapter 6. Clues. The next day was a busy one. They had slept in their bedrooms for the first time. Could it be possible that they had been there only a day and a half? Marjorie declared that she already felt as if she had always been there. After spending the morning in getting all of their belongings arranged, they had a hasty lunch. Then they decided that they could not waste the good weather indoors. The fascinating boat, of course, was the lure. But they spent only part of the afternoon on the lake. The boys caught 2 fish, and with that accomplishment, the Allens went home. Letters which they had picked up the day before in Ridgeville were reread. Marjorie shared a funny letter from Judy Powell with the rest. Penny read snatches from her letters, bits of news from Charles and Mary Curtis and from Peter Wyland, who had so admired Penny back home. Phil had letters as well from Charles and Mary. There were also some business letters and an offer from the publishing house to take him on, he said, without explanation. That would mean going back, with all the problems of finding a place to live. No one said a word to discourage Philip, but he remarked, with a wry smile himself, that the family did not seem to be exactly enthusiastic. Accordingly, the second night found the Allens industriously scribbling away to inform their friends of their whereabouts and of their good fortune. Philip's letters were partly along business lines. Among other things, it was necessary to write for their trunks. Disposed in the roomy attic of the house taken over by their old friends, Mr. and Mrs. Curtis, were trunks, boxes of books, and the choice pieces of furniture which they had wanted to retain. There was some discussion in regard to what should be brought on, but the decision was for trunks only. "What are you doing, Marge?" asked Penny, looking up as Marge rose. "I'm going to get the encyclopedia and read up all about Michigan. I'm horribly ignorant." They all laughed at this remark. "Tell us what you find out, Marjorie," said Philip, but Marjorie was already deep in the pages of a big volume and did not reply. It was late before the Allens were ready to go to bed. Jimmy gathered up a handful of very short letters with the remark that it would be a good while before he would bother to write any again. He followed Marjorie into the study and, finding that her curiosity on Michigan had been quickly satisfied, picked up the volume himself. Philip and Penny wrote for a little longer until Philip announced he was going to lock up and go to bed, that the others could do as they wished. That night they slept peacefully, with no indication of a ghost to trouble them. Early in the morning, while Penny was busy getting breakfast, there came a knock at the kitchen door. "Margie," called Penny in a loud whisper, "can you go to the door? I'm in pajamas and a robe." "So am I," returned Marjorie, appearing from the dining room. "But I'll go." She lifted a corner of the white curtain for a peep through the window. "It's only a girl," she announced. "Hi," she continued, as she threw open the door. "Excuse my looks. I'm not dressed yet." The girl answered Marjorie's smile. She was probably about Penny's age, Marjorie thought, dark-eyed and slender, with a rather serious face. Over her blue jeans she wore a red plaid wool jacket. She carried a tin pail, which she lifted a little as she spoke. "We thought you might like some milk," she said hesitatingly. "If you want to take milk, Mother said she would be glad to send it to you every morning, or at night if you'd rather." Penny was in the door by this time. "Oh," she said, "this is just what we needed. How did you know?" "I just discovered that we are out of it, and I thought I had gotten enough when we were in town the other day." "Well, here it is," said the girl in a more assured tone, smiling again at Penny's pleasant reception. "I brought 2 quarts, though I wasn't sure that you would want that much. I thought you would have something to measure out a quart, but I knew there were 4 of you." "Golly, with 2 boys in the family, milk just disappears." I'll take the 2 quarts, and if your mother will send some every day, it will solve that problem. Marjorie, would you mind running up to our room to get my pocketbook? I'll have to empty the pail and wash it." "Oh, you needn't bother to wash it," said the girl quickly. As speedy as Marjorie was, when she returned with the pocketbook, the milk was empty, the pail washed. The girl was looking around the big kitchen with admiring eyes, and a younger girl, shyly smiling, leaned against the closed screen door and looked in. "Oh, come in," said Marjorie. "Do you live close to us? How did you get here? I'm Marjorie Allen. What's your name?" While the younger girl was hesitating, in all probability deciding which of Marjorie's questions to answer first, Penny spoke. "These are the Clinton girls, Callie and Dottie. Yes, do come in, Dottie." Thus urged, the younger girl entered, carefully closing the screen and sitting down on a high kitchen stool near the door. It was the older girl who replied to the questions. "We live on a little place around the bay a piece. Quite a piece, you might think. Maybe 1.5 miles. "Golly, and you walked all that way? And would come every day?" "Heck, that's nothing," spoke Dottie now, in answer to Marjorie. "I've walked 2 or 3 miles to deliver milk. But Dad has a car too, and in the summer he carries milk to the summer people all around here. He's away now. We came through the woods this morning. It's a nice walk." "We haven't been into our woods yet, scarcely," said Marjorie. "We only just came, you see." "Yes, we heard about it. Pat Ryan said you were coming. How do you like your place? You ought to been here this summer if you wanted to see it when it was real pretty and the lake nice." "We think it's pretty now, and the lake is swell." "Yes, we're having good weather now, but when it begins to storm, you may not like it as well." Both Penny and Marjorie disclaimed any idea of not liking it, whatever the weather might be. It would be fine to see a storm up there. One thing led to another, and the 2 new acquaintances were deeply interested when the girls told about the schools they had gone to before, the camps, and their former home. Penny leaned against the table after paying Callie. Marjorie hitched up on a corner of it. Callie sat in the chair which had been offered her, and Dottie sat perched on the stool, elbows on her knees, hands cupping her cheeks, and her eager eyes first on Penny and then on Marjorie. Penny found herself speaking more frankly than she would ordinarily have thought wise to these perfect strangers. Still, people around might as well know the facts. There was nothing to conceal, and these girls seemed so interested. "I never was inside this house before," sighed Dottie, slipping from the stool as her sister rose to go. "I always did want to see it. This is a fine kitchen you have, Penny." "Yes, isn't it? Come over sometime when the boys aren't still in bed, as they are now, the lazy bones, and we'll show you around." "Gee, would you?" asked Dottie, as if she could hardly wait. "And please tell me, is there really a ghost here? You don't look as if you'd found one, and Pat and Mr. Allen liked it here, but Pat says funny things sometimes." "What does he say?" "Oh, hints. That's probably just for the fun of it." Another reason occurred to Penny as she spoke. Perhaps Pat encouraged the ghost idea to keep people away from the place. He couldn't stay around himself all the time. "But what sort of a ghost do people say is here, Dottie?" inquired Penny. Dottie looked rather sheepishly at her sister, who was evidently thinking that Dottie had said too much, and frowned a little at her. "I might as well say, Callie," she explained. "Why, they say that the ghosts of the people that were drowned knock on the door at night and ask to come in, all dripping and everything. And then there's the ghost of the Baroness that Mike Callahan declared he saw himself about 2 or 3 weeks ago. She goes around in a green silk dress and carries a blue light like a star, Mike said." "A blue light?" exclaimed Penny, a little startled. She caught herself then and went on. "No ghost has bothered us. and certainly not a green lady.
Why, Penny, you just hit the name that the ghost goes by. The Green Lady.
I think that Anne Mary mentioned it, replied Penny. I can't say that I admire the color scheme, green silk and a blue light.
That's French, Penny, said Marjorie. And it's funny, but the lady that Marjorie suddenly broke off. Maybe we'll walk over to see you sometime when we're on a hike. Do you ever make cottage cheese? I like that pretty well.
Yes, we're making up some tomorrow. Shall we bring it? Penny immediately ordered cottage cheese and cream, as well as milk for the following day. We have done without it so long traveling around, she said, that we'll have a real milk celebration. But regularly I think we'll take 2 quarts for the present. After they had gone, Penny spoke seriously to her sister. Now please, Margie, don't get nervous over this ghost idea. It's all perfect nonsense. Probably somebody dressed up to scare somebody in the beginning. I'm not a bit nervous, Penny, though I might get that way if I had to stay here all alone. It's pretty spooky in a house as big as this. And Penny, I thought that the lady I almost saw was in green. Oh, Marjorie, you're the limit. But Penny thought to herself of her own vision that first night. The boys were downstairs by this time. Jimmy announced that in view of finances and supplies, he would eat only 2 eggs, though he was capable of putting away more. The savory smell of frying bacon and hot cocoa soon filled the kitchen. Penny said, "Tomorrow, if you're good, we'll have pancakes galore. Philip says he has to learn how to make them." "Phil? But you'll stand over him, won't you, Penny?" "What's this? What's this?" asked Philip. "Don't you remember that great batch I cooked the last time? I merely want to keep my hand in and give the chief cook and bottle washer a lift once in a while." Jimmy thought it seemed a waste of a man's time and energy to flip pancakes on a griddle when he could be fishing. So he offered to direct his energies toward bringing home the bacon, otherwise the denizens of the deep. Penny announced that it was perfectly satisfactory to her if he kept on the fish line, literally and figuratively, especially if he cleaned them. She said it was very easy to fry or bake fish, and she would start a cooking school at once if there were any great demand, and would encourage it all she could. Around the table they discussed, as usual, plans for the day. Should they drive, fish, explore the woods, or what? Sometimes what they had planned on the preceding day, as they had discovered many times, did not look what Jimmy called so hot when the time came around. Mood and interest had changed overnight. This morning they decided to separate. The boys wanted to go out on the lake. Penny felt a little tired and decided that she and Marjorie would possibly take a walk through the woods a little, or open some trunk in the storeroom. Marjorie thought that the most fun. "I want to find the green dress," she said. Neither girl expected to find any clothing once belonging to the reported Baroness, but it was fun to make the most of the story. "I wish Judy was here," Marjorie said. "Wouldn't she just love to look through trunks with us?" End of chapter 6.